Nerfran Nasrullah,
Here.
Brian Herr,
Here.
Mary Jo Lafreniere,
Here.
Amy Ritterbush.
Here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Norman Kamalu,
Here.
Elaine Lazarus.
Here.
Additional speakers this evening may include Wilson St. Pierre, Kathy Herval, Scott Richardson, Karen Remillard, Joe Bennett, Brittany Firth, Nathan Wright, Donald Voner, Keith Meller, and Sean McAuliffe. If there's anybody attending who would like to speak during the public forum of the agenda, you must notify the meeting host in advance. You may do this now by using the raise hand feature on Zoom. This open meeting of the Hopkins Select Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we are complying with the executive order that suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The executive order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely as long as the public body makes provisions through adequate alternative means to ensure interested members of the public are provided reasonable access and to deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. For this meeting, the Select Board is convening by video conference via Zoom webinar as posted on the town's web meeting calendar and on the board's agenda identifying how the public may join. Additionally, the meeting may also be broadcast by HCAM through one of its many channels or platforms. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some of the attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you. Take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. We're now turning to the first agenda item. Before we do so, permit me to cover a few ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will invite board members to provide any comment, question, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in dialogue with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Not every agenda item will feature public comment. For the public forum of this agenda, the chair will work with the meeting host to call on each pre-registered speaker to make their comment. Each speaker must begin by identifying their name and address. Each speaker will have up to 2 minutes for their comments. Finally, each vote in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Pledge of Allegiance. Let's stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all. Thank you. So now we will turn to the public forum. I see that Mr. Richardson has his hand up. Scott Richardson and Wilson St. Pierre, you are the two people that will be permitted to speak during public comment. It is cut off now, other than those two. So let me see, who is our, I forget the name of our, so Ben, if you would liven up Mr. Richardson's, well, there he is. Hi, Scott, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How's everyone doing?
Good. Scott, hold on 1 second, would you? I just want to start my stopwatch. I don't want to be accused that I'm allowing some people more time than I allow others. So let me just get this stopwatch up and running. And you are set to go. You get 2 minutes. Go ahead, buddy.
Minutes. Okay, thank you. Well, I just wanted to give an update. Scott Richardson with Gorman Richardson Lewis Architects, speaking on behalf of the Hopkinton Center for the Arts. As you may know, they have several projects that are hopefully underway soon. One of them is the exterior rehabilitation of the building, which many people have been longing to have happen. CPC voted to appropriate about $400,000 towards that effort. And we got on board based on Jeanette Thompson's direction for rehabilitation and have a package out to bid as a public bid because it's public funding. And those bids are due this Thursday at 2 p.m. So we're hopefully optimistic that they will come in under budget, and we would then report thusly back to Norman and others where we are on that. We also have a historic commission meeting this evening, right after this, to review the scope of the work to make sure that we're staying on track. The other project, do I still have a couple seconds left?
You got 45 seconds.
Okay. The other project is the interior renovations, which the HCA was very successful in obtaining about another $180,000 from Mass Cultural Council to renovate the interior. And basically what that involves is actually quite a bit of work to open up the interior to really accommodate the expanding ceramics program, develop a code compliant stair to the second floor, upgrade lighting and electrical work. And we anticipate those documents will be done on or about November 24th, with bids due on the 9th of December. And we're anticipating that's a private bid situation.
Excellent. Well,
Great.
thank you very much, Scott. That was appreciated. I appreciate it. And I'm not allowed to comment at public comment. So I can't tell you how happy I am that you're doing this and that my family was actually raised at the HCA. So I will hold my comments and not tell you that. So thank you very much. So it looks like Wilson St. Pierre or Kathy Herval from the Hopkins and Northwoods Coalition. If you
Great.
want to liven up, it looks like there's Wilson.
Hi,
Hi, Wilson.
thank
Hold on
you.
for a second here. Let me.
We've got 2 minutes, not 3, correct?
You get 2 minutes.
Okay. All right,
Uh,
my name is
Go ahead. Yep, you're on.
Wilson St. Pierre. I'm an 8-year resident of 22 Huckleberry Road. Tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the Hopkinton Northwoods Coalition, which is a group that was formed this summer to advocate for the collective interests of 100 property owners around the I-495-90 interchange. That includes Huckleberry Road, Roosevelt Farms, Hopkinton Meadows, Rocky Woods, and homes along Fruit Street. We have 3 main priorities: safeguarding our water quality, reducing highway noise impacts, and improving safety along Fruit Street. And we're here tonight to talk about the noise priority. While we have serious concerns about other things too, we want to focus on that tonight. Our lead representative, Kathy Herval, who is a civil engineer with extensive project experience here in Massachusetts, recently submitted 14 pages of detailed written comments through Mass EPA review process project. And while we received responses to our comments around noise concerns, most of the questions were answered in a cursory manner. The Roosevelt Farms HOA compelled project planners to evaluate their community for a sound barrier under the Massachusetts Noise Abatement Program. This evaluation, however, consisted of 1 afternoon of noise monitoring in 2 areas along Bull Moose Run. Measurements were taken between 2 and 4 p.m. in May, notably not during rush hour, and at a time of year when leaves dissipate some of the highway noise. After this limited testing, they deemed the area not suitable on a cost benefit analysis for a wall. And they provided minimal transparency into their methodology, giving us little recourse to appeal the decision with our own data. We're now gathering our own data anyway, and would seek the town's assistance to engage with state planners on this topic.
Great. Thank you, Wilson. Wilson, if I could just make a suggestion that maybe you get in touch with Mr. Kamalu and so rather than make this a public comment, get on the agenda and we can have a discussion on
We
this
will do that.
agenda wise. Yeah. So that
Great.
way we can allot you more than 2 minutes and, kind of get more of the details and what we can do to help you out.
We'll do that next. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Is that it? I think Kathy Herval had her hand up too. So Yeah, let's liven up Kathy, see if she wants to speak. Let's see. There she is. And Kathy, you're on. If you,
Yep.
well, you gotta unmute yourself. There you go.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. For some reason, my video is not coming up, but thank you. My name's Kathy Hervel. I live at 24 Roosevelt Lane. And I just wanted to add quickly a few kind of a background on all this issue. Over the past several years, the interchange has moved closer and closer to our homes, first with the lengthening of the Mass Pike exit to 495, as well as the removal of the toll booth. Each of those projects removing significant amount of trees between us and the highway. Now with the new interchange, they're proposing additional tree removal, again, reducing our natural barrier to the noise from the highway. DEP or DOT, basically indicated through their study that only 6 houses were impacted. What I'd like to say is that come out to our neighborhood at 5 in the morning or 5 in the afternoon, and you will see that every house in these neighborhoods is severely impacted now by the interchange. But we also have real concerns about what's going to happen as traffic picks up. And just note that this interchange has also become part of the mass transit freight plan that was approved in 2018, basically designating truck traffic that's going to run 24/7, even with the future of possibly automated trucking, not even drivers, and whizzing by our development. So we just appreciate whatever help you can give us, and just realize that this interchange is coming closer and closer, in some cases 60 to 80 feet closer along our Cubs Path area where the toll booth was at one time, but just the whole ramp is shifting towards the developments. And with that, thank you, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Kathy. And again, same as I said to Wilson, let's get this on an agenda.
Yep.
I think I speak for the whole board where, these are some of the things that we don't mind sinking our teeth into and doing our best work that we can for the citizens of Hopkinton. This isn't a Hopkinton job. This is a state job, and we will do everything in our power to make sure that everything is done to the satisfaction of our townspeople.
Appreciate that.
Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Herr.
I'm going to put that on for future agenda items tonight, just so you know.
Okay, good. All right, Wilson, Kathy, thank you very much. And we will now move on to the consent agenda. Board will consider approving the consent agenda consisting of number 1, approval of the minutes for the October 20 meeting. Number 2, approve a change of manager for the Woodville Rod and Gun Club to Karen Remillard. Number 3, approve a 2021 seasonal population estimate of 15,048 for the ABCC. Number 4, to accept a $50 gift to the ambulance fund in memory of Joe Donovan from Richard and Janet Stewart, Dick Stewart and Janet Stewart. Number 5, to accept a gift of $100 to the library from the Hopkinton Women's Club. Would any member like to pull an item out for a separate vote?
Chair, I would like to pull number 3 out.
Okay. So I will request a motion to approve consent agenda items number 1, 2, 4, and 5.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Hearing none. Mr. Nasrullah, how do you vote?
That's really yes.
Mr. Herr?
Or yes?
Mr. Lafreniere?
Lafreniere, yes.
Ms. Ritterbusch?
Ritterbusch, yes.
That's Stone. So Irfan, you're on for number 3.
So I guess I would ask Mr. Kamalu for a little guidance here. It's really just some questions. I was looking at the memo, and this is an estimate, but we're basing it on the 2010 numbers, and there is a 2020 estimate out there. My only question is, are kind of looking at the 2020 estimate, or kind of picking the middle ground between the 2 numbers?
Through the chair, that's a good question. The ABCC regulations point back to the 2010 census, as well as any local data that we may have in-house. And based on our review of the local data as well as the 2010 elections, this is the number that we came up with.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set. Mr. Chair, I move we approve item number 3 in the consent agenda
As written.
as written.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Nasrullah, how do you vote?
It's really yes.
Mr. Her,
Or yes.
Lafreniere,
Lafreniere, yes.
Ms. Ritterbusch,
Ritterbusch, yes.
Headstone, yes. And those 2010 census numbers may be the most accurate we have. I don't know if you read the newspaper or not today, but there's a whole lot of craziness going on with this newest, all the new census stuff where people are fudging numbers and making things up. So,
That is happening here in Massachusetts too.
yeah. So so our next agenda item is employee introduction. However, Matt Bailey could not be with us tonight, so perhaps we'll have Chief Slamman introduce him at a future meeting. So we will move on to police officer appointments. The board will consider appointing Brittany Firth and Nathan Wright as police officers to the town of Hopkinton. The board was introduced to the officers at a previous meeting, and now they've completed their academy training. Chief Bennett, if you are on and you are livened up, could you please introduce these new officers to us? Let me just check the attendees, make sure that Chief Bennett is with us tonight. I do not see Chief Bennett. So why don't we go back to that if he logs on a little bit later. The COVID-19 update, Sean McAuliffe, Public Health Director, will provide an update on the town's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. McAuliffe. Let me check that to make sure that he is here. Yep, there he is. So he's on. We just need to unmute. There he is.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Consistent with what's going on in the state and the country, we continue to see a spike in cases throughout Hopkinton. We're at 188 total cases in town, 10 active, 165 recovered. We are expecting another 2 cases tomorrow. We've seen 10 new cases since last Wednesday. Our average daily incident rate is now at 7.4 per 100,000 population. And our positivity rate has gone over 1. It's now at 1.31%. So that, again, we're trending in the wrong direction. We need to course correct and work at reducing our positivity rate. One of the best ways we can start doing that is by doing what we're doing well in town already. We are testing at an exceptional rate over the last, actually since the DPH has been recording this, 11,126 people in town have been tested, and we're averaging about 10% of the population every 2 weeks. So we're going to need to maintain or improve upon that testing rate to help identify who is infected, and then we'll get them into isolation and quarantine. Simply put, we need to stay the course with face coverings. There's a new face covering order that's put into place. I know the public safety departments have received complaints about it. I'm getting complaints about it. So it's, if you're out in public, wear a mask. Obviously, if you're jogging down the center trail all alone at 6 o'clock in the morning, you can take a break because there's probably not going to be anybody within a quarter mile of you. If you're alone in a field singing The Sound of Music, you don't need to wear a mask, but you got to have it with you, because at this point, with this rate of infection, you just don't know who's potentially carrying it. So we want everybody to just to be compliant and just protect yourself, your family, and those that you work with. We need everybody to stay distanced, as we've gone over 100 times. We need people to really focus on hygiene, but more importantly, if you're sick, you don't know what you've got, stay home. We again, and get tested, because one of the things that we found to be most disruptive over the last, I'd say, 2 weeks in the school system, it has been a parent has been advised, or for that matter, maybe a staff member has been advised that they should probably get tested, and they go off and either drop their children off at school and then go get tested, or they go into school or go into work and they don't know what they've got, and then a day or two later they result positive. And this is causing, we're seeing major disruptions in either workplaces. We've seen disruptions in the school system, and if people would just take a step back and get tested, and then act on the data that they have, or the results that they have, we believe we can stop. We can reduce the incidence in town. On a positive note, we still haven't seen, community spread, and we haven't seen any spread in the school department, which then, when you look at the school's data, and I've actually got one of my interns who's going to do a breakdown of all of the testing that's been done and the incidences of illness in the schools, the municipality. And when we break all that down, what we will demonstrate is that we're just not getting sick in school, and we're not getting sick in the municipality, because we're following the rules. We're masked, we're distanced, and we're following through with our attestation on a daily basis. And if we can do that on a daily basis, we're just trying to use this as an example and lead by example, that if this is adopted across all work sectors, which is required, we should be able to drive our rate back down. I mean, we went from yellow not last week, the week after, 2 weeks ago. We're back down to green. But we got to green through a change in the metric measurement system. So again, we just really need to focus on the basics. Where are people getting sick? They're getting sick at weddings, luncheons, small gatherings, larger gatherings. Interestingly enough, over the last 10 days, we're not seeing anybody getting sick from athletics, but we believe that's because they got the message through the hockey business, but we are seeing the trend is now going back from the majority of people being in that younger population. Now we're going back up, and I bet if I ran an average, our average age is up around 35 to 40, because we've seen, as I said, a significant uptick in the number of older residents that are getting sick. We are working with Golden Pond. They identified a sick individual that works at the facility, but we deployed our rapid testing system that Casey and I got. We've tested all of the employees and all of the residents that had come in contact with them. To date, or as of about 2 hours ago, we haven't had any positive results come out of that. We're actually going to deploy the system at another business over the next couple days just to do an assessment to make sure that we have no spread in that workplace. And then now, we have these systems available that we can deploy throughout the municipality, like in our municipal offices, should an issue arise in, say, a public safety or a DPW department.
John, do you use the Broad Institute for your testing?
We actually have a CLIA waiver to do antigen testing.
Okay.
So Casey and I, we've been at this for, 8-9 months now. So we figured out, if we're going to stay ahead of this, we got to really be pushing, beyond what everybody else is doing. So, Casey filled out the paperwork and we got our CLIA guidance. So we work with under our medical advisor. So we are able to provide rapid antigen testing, but in very specific instances. So it's got to be in that sweet spot of like 5 to 7 days past exposure, ideally if you're symptomatic. So we are implementing these new programs so that we can deliver that rapid response, much like will be available shortly at the schools through there's a federal grant that went out. And then I've been going after, grant funding to help fund this. So, these mitigation strategies, they're not coming out of my budget. It's all being grant funded. I mean, we just were awarded just under $20,000 capacity grant to help us expand our testing to support the schools with the implementation of an attestation product, and it'll help pay for the college kids that I brought on to help us with marketing, messaging, and other COVID response actions. So we've done a good job to date. And again, I think we just need to tighten, kind of buckle down. And then, I guess I'd end with the other thing that's been happening is we're starting to see colleges send the sick children back home. So, if you've got a child in college, you need a plan in place. You need to be, if you've got a question, feel free to reach out to us, because we had a family who, the college called up and said, oh, we're about ready to pack your child up. We need you to drive up, pick them up. And then, this person was a medical professional. The contact with their child would have, resulted in them going into quarantine for 14 days. And, we were able to sit down. We got the college to deliver or transport the child to home. That gave them 3 hours to prepare. They set up the room. They set up and isolated a bathroom for that child. And in buying that extra time and getting that plan in place, their other children were able to maintain, a normal life, in the school system. And they were able to continue with their work. But it's starting to happen. We've got more and more kids coming back, and we just want people to prepare before Thanksgiving comes. That's about it. Any questions?
I'm good. Board, anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have just one question. Where are the closest available testing sites, public testing sites now?
We have, so Milford's facility at Lumber Street, right beside the 110 Grill. That's probably the most frequented by Hopkinton residents.
Okay.
Then AFC has facilities in Marlboro and Natick that are local. AFC is actually staffing the Stop the Spread testing in Marlboro. There is they might also, actually, no, there's an ambulance service that's covering 2 Stop the Spread facilities in Framingham. And what we're finding is that these Stop the Spread facilities now are a little better equipped and have been, their service has been approved, so they're actually processing people faster, and their results are coming back in about 24 to 36 hours. So you might wait a little longer to get into the testing, but your results are coming back at a much better rate than we've seen elsewhere.
And
Thank you.
Framingham, just for your information, Framingham's addresses are, they're at TJX. They've opened their main parking lot up to drive-through testing. And then there's one on Hollis Street in Framingham, right, the old fire station that shut down right across from that gas station there. It's now like a little art museum or something like that. So those are the 2 places. And Sean is absolutely right. We use those, or we refer a lot of people to those places when it was at Keefe Tech and when it was at Walsh Middle School. They change it on a month-by-month basis.
Right.
So at Keefe Tech and Walsh Middle School, sometimes the waits were 4 hours. We sent somebody the other day, it was about a 25-minute wait. So they really streamlined their operation at the TJX facility. So
No, and I mean,
I can't speak for any of the other facilities, though. Those are just the ones we refer people to professionally.
but Casey went out and she got tested with she and one of her well, actually she got tested and she actually resulted faster out of the Framingham Stop the Spread facility that she did at the other facility. So and we've seen that happen with a number of residents where they were actually shocked that the results came back. I had a resident that they got just under 24 hours turnaround.
Yeah,
So
we've had
it's
good-
free.
Yep.
Those facilities, they're free. You don't need your insurance. You don't need really, you can just really just show up. It's better to make an appointment, but though they're well recommended and they're state funded.
And also, if you don't go to one of those facilities, the federal mandate right now is that insurance companies have to pay for it.
Right.
And Massachusetts, with no deductible, no financial onus to the insured, and the state of Mass, that they require everybody to have insurance. So it's free no matter where you go.
Right.
But like Sean was saying, those other places that are getting the rapid results, you may have to wait an extra 25 minutes or a half an hour, but it's well worth it than to get the results back, 24, 36 hours before the other places. So,
and as most of the residents know, I mean, they can call us, they can, call, text, email, we'll help you through that process. We actually we've had a couple people run into a barrier or two, and we were able to take care of them. And we actually had a senior who was homebound who we were able to get them tested at home. So that was we're looking to expand that ability, but because of our relationship with our medical supervisor, we were able to provide those kind of one-off specialty accommodations. So, it's just, ask, communicate with us. We're here to help.
John, I have a question for you. So with the Thanksgiving holidays coming, we all have our college children coming back, and I've been talking to my daughter. I'm sure a lot of other parents have been talking to their children about getting tested before you come back home, so we know that you're safe. Now, I know you just said that it's free, but does there need to be a doctor requesting that you get tested? Does there need to be any kind of exposure, potential exposure, or is it just free. I think I want to get tested. I want to go to a party before, you know, I mean, everybody's going to get tested. Can we do, is that something that we can do now?
Well, I mean, most of them, you know, if they're traveling from out of state, it's a requirement through the travel order. You know, unless they're coming in from New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, or Maine. So there is a mandate to provide testing for that. And then, you know, personally, I went and got tested because I was gonna go spend time with my in-laws, and they didn't bat an eye. So, and again, if you're running into difficulties, or if you know, they can call, and if they're having, like, if someone in Amherst is having a problem, I mean, I'll get on the phone with the Amherst Health Department. You know, we just helped 2 families with their kids identifying, you know, testing, you know, well outside of the region. So, you know, that's what we're here for.
That's fantastic, because
And it's better for me to do it on the front end than have to deal with everybody on the back end, because
well, we have a lot of kids coming home. We're gonna
Yeah.
have kids coming home for Thanksgiving, and I know I can't wait to see my daughter, but you know, there's that big question mark. She's been in a isolated with a bunch of kids.
yeah, and it's I mean, like I talked to one family today. It's, you know, like Casey and I know firsthand, COVID is disruptive. So we just need to do everything we can to plan for this, so that it's not disruptive. And
Thank you. I have one other question. You said that you're expecting 2 more positives tomorrow.
yeah,
How are you expecting that? They seem sick, and you think they are?
it's we know that there's one in the family that's ill, and there are 2 others that thought they had a cold. And you know, if you ask Chief Slayman, Casey's always right. and I have no doubt that in this situation, that she's right, and that we'll see 2 more. And again, this is part of this. What we're seeing is it's being brought into a household, and then it's typically the spouses, and then one of the children. You know, like the joke yesterday and over the weekend was, you know, I love the children that hate their parents, because we're not seeing any spread in those children, because they're coming home, they're going to their room, doing their homework, playing video games, and they really have limited exposure. As opposed to the one that's really close to the parents, those are the ones that are we're seeing we're seeing the spread to those children. So.
Well, thank you. I think you're doing a fantastic job. We owe a debt of gratitude to you. This is glad you're on our side.
No, it's you know, I think as Tim said, this is it's one of those once in a lifetime, you know, moments. So, any other questions?
Good. Well, thank you very much, Sean. Appreciate it. So we're going to go back. We're going to jump back on the agenda to Chief Bennett. So if we can get Chief Bennett livened up. The board will consider appointing Brittany Firth and Nathan Wright, as they've already said. So Chief, would you go ahead and introduce the new potential new officers to us, please? After you unmute yourself, of course.
All right. Thank you, Lieutenant. Well, good evening, everyone. Through the chair, I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to be here this evening.
Hi, Chief. Thanks for making the time for us.
All right. Tonight, we celebrated an important accomplishment for 2 of our newest employees, Brittany Firth and Nate Wright. Tonight, we celebrate the formal beginning of what promises to be a long career of dedicated service to our community. Back on January 31st of this year, the board selected Brittany and Nate to become members of the Hopkinton Police Department and join our community. January 1st feels like a century ago. But imagine what it just felt like for these two. Imagine experiencing all that 2020 has brought us and also having to endure the mental, physical, and psychological challenges of a police academy. Tonight, I'm proud to say that on October 22nd, not only did they both complete the academy, they both excelled. In fact, Brittany even won the 110% award. I suspect, and I've heard rumors, that there might have been a little competitive edge between the two, but that's a good thing. Tonight, as your chief, I am proud to bring them before you. Back in January, when you interviewed them, you saw their quality as candidates. What makes me especially proud tonight is that beyond intellect, knowledge, training, and education, these candidates possess the values that we treasure in our police department and in our community. We all know what professional, caring, and empathetic police officers look like. We see them around town every day. If appointed tonight, I celebrate welcoming Brittany Firth and Nathan Wright to the Hopkinton Police family and to the entire Hopkinton community. Through you, Mr. Chair, I present Brittany Firth and Nathan Wright for your consideration and final appointment to the Hopkinton Police Department.
Thank you very much, Chief. So we have already gone through, Mr. Kamala, we've already gone through this interview process for these two candidates. I remember it very vividly. So I guess I would open it up now to the board if they have any questions for either or both candidates, and then we'll make a motion. So Mr. Nasrullah.
Yeah, real quick, how much of your police academy was done remotely?
None.
None?
Sir, we had no remote training during our academy. It was all in person.
Awesome.
You know, I feel horrible for all the kids that are going to college and having it all be remote. I'm glad you were able to experience the whole police academy. And, you know, I think it's incredible that you both excelled the way you did, 110%. That's incredible. Really proud of you.
Thank you. Mr. Herr.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Lafreniere.
Just that we're really happy to have you, and we're very proud of you and the job you did at the academy. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Ritterbusch.
Yeah, I'll just add that, you know, it was very nice to meet you both when you came before us previously, and we're very excited that you finished the academy, and congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, and I will add congratulations, Brittany and Nate. We can't be an easy time now, and it just shows your dedication to this career with all the extraneous stuff that's going on in our country. So thank you for persevering, going through and making it through the academy. And, you know, success starts at the top. We're the #1 safest town and country, town and city in the country 2 years ago, #2 last year. You know, we lead by example. Our chief is second to none. We got a lieutenant that's really good. Our sergeants, our patrolmen. You got Phil Powers that's been there about 200 years. You got all the way up to people that are brand new like yourself. So it's you guys can learn a lot. I always say when we go through this process that you guys as new patrolmen and women have kind of hit the lottery that you get to start your career here. So welcome to Hopkinton. Thank you very much. And I don't believe, I mean, you guys are welcome to ask us questions if you have any, but you know, if the academy taught you anything, I'm sure it's less is more. So
That's not gonna, Mr. Chair, that's not gonna happen.
right, so I will entertain a motion to, let me just grab this, to appoint Brittany Firth and Nathan Wright as police officers for the town of Hopkinton.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion, any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Nasrullah, how do you vote?
Nasrullah, yes.
Mr. Herr?
Herr, yes.
Ms. Lafreniere?
Grania, yes.
Ms. Ritterbush,
Ritterbush, yes.
Pitstone, yes. Welcome to Hopkinton, Brittany and Nate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Now get out there and start keeping our town safe.
Mr. Chair, if you would, Mr. Deegan's here and he's offered to give their oath of office.
Absolutely.
Just right out of the way.
Okay. Hi there, folks.
Hi, Deegs.
Brittany, I'll help you out first. If you please raise your right hand. Do you, Brittany Firth, solemnly swear that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the United States of America and to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that you will support the Constitution and laws thereof, so help you God?
I swear.
And do you also accept the office of police officer for the police force of the town of Hopkinton and agree to obey and be bound by such rules and regulations as are now or may be from time to time laid down for the governing of the police department of the town of Hopkinton, and to carry out your duties as a police officer faithfully, impartially, and to the best of your ability?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And Nathan, would you please raise your right hand? Do you, Nathan Wright, solemnly swear that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the United States of America and to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that you will support the Constitution and the laws thereof, so help you God?
I swear.
And do you also accept the office of police officer of the police force of the town of Hopkinton and agree to obey and be bound by such rules and regulations as are now or may be from time to time laid down for the governing of the police department of the town of Hopkinton, and to carry on your duties as police officer faithfully, impartially, and to the best of your ability?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
One more round of applause for our new appointees.
Congratulations. It's we lose a lot in the Zoom translation. That's a very meaningful oath that I certainly enjoy to be face to face with, but in these times we make do. So congratulations to both, and Chief Bennett, they are clay in your hands. Mold them.
Will do, sir. Thank
Who's
you.
that guy over your right? Hello, Lieutenant.
There he is.
As you were.
all again.
Good to see you. All right, thank you very much. So, Mr. Kamalu, you got 13 minutes. Can you do a town manager report?
Yes, Mr. Texton. Two items that I want to walk the board through. The first being that we're still waiting for Mass DOT to announce the winning bid on the Main Street Corridor project. We expect that to happen in the coming days. I'm also requesting the board to grant an exemption, a hiring freeze exception that will allow the hiring of the senior library assistant. Suffice to say that at the time the hiring freeze was put in place, this was one of the positions that was right at the goal line. We had completed the interview process. We were ready to identify the candidate that we're going to be inviting to join the town. As you know, the library currently has been providing limited service. I can share with you that I have received calls here in the office asking the library to expand its public services. And the hiring of the position will allow the library to do that. This is a position that is already budgeted in FY21. And I believe if you have any additional questions, I am available together with the Library Services Director to answer them.
Board members, do you have any questions for Mr. Kamalu? Mr. Natsrula?
Yes. Mr. Kamalu, I'm a little torn on this because as we're seeing the COVID numbers spiking, we're essentially we're saying we want to open up the library hours even longer, have more people in an enclosed space, with the numbers rising as it gets colder out. So I'm torn. I understand that the need for library services is important for our kids, for our community, but I just, are we taking any particular measures to prevent community spread? Are we, from a COVID perspective, is this the wise thing to do?
That's a good question. I think as you heard from Sean McAuliffe, we as a community are taking all the necessary steps to manage the community spread. As part of our we have a cleaning services going through the library at least twice a day. We are firm on enforcing the social distancing, basic hygiene, and so forth. I need to mention that part of the work performed by this position is what we do in the background. I think as you saw in the note that was provided by the Library Services Director, we really want to get back to cataloging. And that's very important for our library function. So your point is well taken. Clearly, yes, we'll continue to address the measures that need to be in place to ensure that we don't become a super spreader at the library. And at the same time, I also want to share with the board that part of the work that needs to be done by this position is in the background. Thank you.
Mr. Herr? I'm sorry. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Mr. Herr?
What are the hours that the library is open now? I thought our hours are way down.
Through the chair, with the chair's permission, I'll invite Heather Beckman, the Library Services Director, to walk the board through the library opening hours.
Okay. So we can liven up Heather Beckman, please. There she is.
Am I audible and visible now? It looks like I may be.
Yes, you're
I
both.
think I was in some sort of listening mode before that.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We can hear you.
And thank you for the opportunity to talk with you about this position. So the current library opening hours are from 1 to 4 p.m. on weekdays. That is very limited. It is very challenging for folks who are, for example, working parents, who just aren't available on weekday afternoons to make it in, who may want to come in and browse. As the town manager indicated, we are taking all precautions. We are consulting with the Board of Health. We're limiting access to the building to a certain number of people at a time. We're asking people to sanitize their hands and do all that stuff when they come in. So we are doing our best to maintain a safe environment, and I believe that we are being successful with that. So we're looking at an hours expansion to enable people who cannot make it in the building, who want to come in the building, to make it, to hopefully add enough hours that we could add a couple hours a week, at least for immunocompromised populations, to be able to come in. With our very limited hours right now, we are not able to do that. And we have some plans in the works to make that happen, but it's really going to stretch staff to the very utmost of our capacity to add that service for the community. At the same time, as Norman indicated, this is a position that has substantial back office duties. About half of the 40-hour-a-week allotment is taken up with cataloging. That's a core function. It is not something we can stop, because if we don't do it, then it means new materials are not available to circulate. So we have split the duties of that position, the cataloging duties, across approximately 4 staff right now. And those staff include, for instance, our teen services librarian, who is also under high demand to provide enhanced support to our young adult population. We've just started 4 different book groups out of the teen services department to try to give our young folks an outlet, a place to socialize. So as we are looking at expanding hours, we're also feeling pressure to expand services in other ways. And the fact that we have staff covering for this vacant position, some kind of core work that we really can't just drop, means that we are struggling to meet the level of demand the community is asking for us to support them, to be, as much as we can, that community hub during this challenging time. And that's why we are seeking this exemption. Does that answer the question sufficiently?
Kind of. So Heather, we're down in hours, and we've got sort of external programs that we're trying to promote and work, and we're trying to support people swinging by and picking up circulation items, I assume, things like that.
Mhm.
But what are the metrics that would suggest that we need to put somebody in a time when we're really kind of shut down? Like, what are more books going out in those 3 hours a day that it's open than in the previous, months before COVID? Or, how do we measure it other than sort of the stress of all of us trying to put up with this whole COVID thing? How do we measure that we really need this position? I'm struggling with this one, maybe from a slightly different angle than Mr. Nasrullah, but I think, with similar concerns about why we would do it now.
Sure. I think that I don't have the exact numbers on me right now. I can tell you when I've been looking at the results, certainly since we've reopened the building, we've seen a upswing in our circulation statistics in terms of physical items going back into circulation. I can tell you one of the metrics that I pay a lot of attention to is community feedback. And we have heard a lot of people saying that they are very glad that they can walk back in the building and browse. We had a lot of pressure before we reopened to put those hours back in, and we are hearing community feedback. I could try and get some numbers or comments for you. I'm not sure if we're keeping track of exactly that in terms of people want to be able to come in the building and they can't right now. So the circulation's increased. I could pull for you our number of materials added to the shelves and give you an estimate for how many hours of cataloging time that's taken. That would be a research piece, which I would be happy to do for you if you'd like me to, get back to you with that. I think that, in terms of metrics, one of the most pressured metrics I would go to, those 4 new book groups that our teen librarian has launched, which is about 1 a week. At the outset, she's had between 3 to 8 participants at initial meetings, which is good for a start. And she's been contacted by multiple people for each of those book groups asking for more. Those programs take not only an hour to an hour and a half to run at a time, but they take a few hours of preparation for every program to read the book, to prep the questions, another couple hours to do the publicity. That's a lot of time pressure. And we're seeing that repeated across, again, I'm highlighting the teen programs because that's where we've seen really extensive need, but we're seeing that for adult programming as well. People are wanting, things, and we're providing things like yoga, how to cope with stress, how to, deal with some of the circumstances that our adult population is finding our way in. We're providing story times to the kids that are providing really vital opportunities. We're hearing back from parents, to give their kids something to do, to give their kids a routine, to give the parents a little bit of a break where they can put the kids in front of a library story time for half an hour and get some space themselves. I could find you the attendance metrics for those programs as well, if that would be useful. Again, I don't have them right on me here.
So how many hours a week would this person be coming in?
This is a 40-hour-a-week full-time position. So there would be 20 hours-ish for cataloging work, which then would be 20 hours of time that my other department heads could spend on programming. And we would also be, it's going to be a stretch, but we would be adding, we're going to add a couple of evenings, some morning hours. It would be about, I want to say top of my head without sitting here making you watch me do the math, about 10 hours a week of time, 10 to 15 hours a week of time of additional open hours when the public could come in, could browse. And again, at times when people cannot, that would be more flexible for people who already cannot make it in. A couple of evenings, couple of mornings. We've had our seniors saying they'd like to come in. We could give them an hour or 2 a week where they could come in. It would be for immunocompromised at-risk populations, and they could hopefully use the building more safely or more comfortably for those who don't want to come in during sort of general opening hours.
If you and Sean can make additional hours available to the public when the library is open, I would be okay with it. But if we're just going to be doing 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, I would not be okay with it.
Part of the purpose of adding this is to enable us to add and sustain greater open hours with the staff being able to do that into the longer term. It's a real, we're pushing to do as much as we can, but it is becoming a strain on people to get it all done. And we really want to do the very best we can by this community. There's a lot of need out there.
And is this an hourly position? So let's say COVID hits again hard and we got to shut it down from December 15 to February 15, like literally shut it down completely. What happens then?
That may be a better thing for the town manager to answer. I'm not sure if that would be.
Yeah, yeah, through the chair, Mr. Hay, that's a good question. As we've done before, we will evaluate the needs and if there are any opportunities to continue to have people work remotely. So the answer to your question is we'll evaluate that when we get to that point.
Okay, thank you.
So I need to interrupt this and open a public hearing. The board will hold 2 public hearings on 2 petitions for new utility poles submitted by Verizon and Eversource. Both are scheduled for 7 p.m. So we'll open them at the same time and first discuss the East Street and then the Wood Street. I call the following public hearings to order. Number 1, petition for the new utility pole on East Street, approximately 614 feet northeasterly from center line of Clinton Street. And number 2, petition for 2 new utility poles on the southwesterly side of Wood Street, one approximately 105 feet northwesterly from the center line of Patriots Boulevard and one approximately 411 feet northwesterly from the center line of Patriots Boulevard. However, I am going to table this if Mr. Voner is amenable to that, so we can finish the agenda item that we're working on now. Once we're finished with this agenda item that we're working on, we can go back to this public hearing. Are you amenable to that, Mr. Voner?
Chair, so moved to open the public hearing.
Okay.
Second.
So,
you can hear me, that's fine.
okay. So we don't need a vote to open a public hearing, only to close. But okay, thank you, Mr. Voner. So we will get back to Mr. Herr. Your question has been answered. Mr. Nasrullah. So Ms. Lafreniere, do you have any questions?
When I was reading the letter, this is a vacant position or is it a new position?
Vacant position.
It's a vacant position and the money was appropriated for this position. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Ritterbusch?
Yeah, I was going to ask that too. So it sounds like we've done without it for a while, but we might be needing it back now. I was thinking from an equity standpoint, I think this is important that not everybody is available from 1 to 4 to go to the library. And, you know, although some people are still employed, some people are not. And the free services the library provides, like books and DVDs that you can bring home, and then you can stay home and stop the spread by getting a book or a DVD. So I think it is valuable. And I know cataloging is important. Let's see. And I do think it's valuable to add some hours for working parents and for seniors and immunocompromised family members. You know, my sister's a librarian in Kansas City, and she's been working, I think, 4 days at home since the COVID, because she does a lot of purchasing the new books and cataloging, and it is necessary. Any work can be done at home too. So I think I would be in favor of lifting the hiring freeze for this.
Okay. So, that being said, I will request a motion to allow the hiring of a senior library assistant.
So moved.
Okay.
Anyone want to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Nasrullah, how do you vote?
Nasrullah, yes.
Mr. Herr?
Or maybe. Yes.
Okay.
Come on, Heather. You can't
Ms.
waste money.
Ms. Lafreniere?
Lafreniere, yes.
Ms. Ritterbusch?
Ritterbusch, yes.
Headstone, yes. So that carries. So thank you very much.
Much appreciated.
Mr. Kamal, you're all set? That closes out the town manager report?
Two quick things. FY22 budget process is in progress. We had our first staff level meeting with the school superintendent, the school business manager, the assistant town manager, and the CFO this week. We have now scheduled the budget advisory groups to occur once a month, beginning in November. Annual town meeting dates, just to highlight to town boards and committees that if they are proposing any town meeting articles, they need to get in touch with the town council's office by December 1st. And then last but not least, the 2021 license renewal process. Yeah, the 2021 license renewal process has begun. Vasuda and Elaine have been working diligently with the applicants as well as businesses in town. We are hoping to bring the license renewal to the board at your December meeting. This morning, I attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting, and there was a resounding support to the letter that we received from one of the local businesses representing restaurants in town, requesting that the board and town hall consider some relief for the licensees in town.
Great. So thank you very much, Mr. Khumalo.
So in other words, through the chair, if I may, it may be helpful for the board to give me guidance in terms of whether the town will be willing to waive either the entire licensing fee or a portion of the fee. And I think based on what we have seen, there are two ways that the board could do this. One option is since most of the licenses have already paid the application fee, the board could hold that application fee in place and then waive the issuance fee. If you look at the licensing structure that we forwarded, there's a separation between the application fee and the license issuance fee. And in most cases for the restaurants with all alcohol licenses, the issuance fee is around $3,000. The other alternative that the board could consider is to waive all the fees entirely for restaurants. Specifically in our discussions, we did identify that the package stores have been open throughout this process and have not been adversely impacted as much as the restaurants and other licensed establishments.
I would think that the package stores would be opposite of adversely affected based on the demeanor of the homeschooling teachers, knowing that they may need a little package store assistance at the end of the day after teaching their children for X amount of hours a day. Of course, not my family, but I'm thinking about others.
I think it's an excellent idea to look at the licenses and the cost for those licenses for restaurateurs in town. But I agree also that the package stores, from a pure business perspective, I suspect their sales are up 10, 15, 20% year over year. And, the economics wouldn't warrant the taxpayers helping them out. But I do think the taxpayers would support the restaurant business in a different way.
I feel the exact same way. Is there a way for us to, rather than just kind of broad stroke it, to make it like have them apply for it for relief or assistance? Or you think that is turning it into a little bit too much labor intensive, Mr. Khumalo?
Yeah, I think respectfully, given the way how COVID-19 has affected restaurants, my thinking is that they've all been affected similarly. So it may be difficult to find unique effects per establishment. Thus, I would recommend to the board that the board waive the issuance fees for all establishments.
Not just restaurants?
Restaurants, yes, restaurants. You have restaurants, you also have,
bars.
Yes, yeah, And also we have, the brewery applications as well as clubs and golf establishment golf courses.
But can we not waive it for package stores though? Or for retail?
Right.
Our recommendation, I think, and also based on what I'm hearing from the board is, yes, not waive it for package stores.
Okay.
So, Mr. Kamal, or sorry, Mr. Nasrullah, do you have something?
I was just saying, I would be in support of that.
Okay. So, Mr. Nasrullah, do you just need me to tell you that we are allowing you to figure that out, or do you need a motion?
Well, that's, I think, directed for Mr. Kamalo.
Yes.
Yes, we will appreciate a motion and a vote by the board to waive the license issuance fees for establishments that serve alcohol as well as act as restaurants in town, with the exception of package stores.
Okay. So is that
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the town manager's request to waive the fees for restaurants and establishments serving alcohol, but not package stores.
Second.
okay? Any further discussion?
Were the private housing, were they closed down during like everything else?
Mr. Hurd, your internet connection is wonky at best.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Were the private clubs that are included in your listing, were they closed down and negatively impacted by COVID as well?
No, you got nothing, Brian.
Yeah, we hear nothing.
It's
You want to try? We'll give you one more try. You want to try it again? See how you're doing? Nope.
Oh, he's out. I'm
All
going
right.
to text him and see if I can get his question.
Okay.
And ask it. Why don't we move on to anyone else while I wait for a response from Mr. Hunt?
So the next thing we have is, so as soon as we're done with this motion, we're going to go to that open, that public hearing, and then we're done.
Looks like Mr. Hare has
Well,
rejoined. So
Yeah.
All right, Brian.
Did you vote yet?
Nope,
No.
we're waiting on you.
Okay, sorry. I was just wondering if the private clubs are included in your list, Mr. Kamalo, and if so, fine, but were they impacted by just being shut down during COVID? And are they having to live by the same rules as a public access restaurant?
Mr. Hare, I believe, yes, they were impacted. Remember, for an extended time, golf courses were literally shut down. And when they opened very slowly, similarly with any other private clubs.
As long as the rules apply the same to them, I'm fine with them being on the list. But if they get to live their own little life and they got a lot of cash coming in, then as a business person, I would say that's not fair.
No,
But if they're impacted, they're impacted. That's fine.
I can tell you with no uncertainty that the country club was definitely impacted, as well as like the Woodville Rod and Gun Club.
Yeah,
They're
okay.
impacted. Everyone, they all, regardless of their designation, public or private, they were hit just as hard as the public.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so no more discussion. The motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Nasrullah, how do you vote?
Nasrullah, yes.
Her?
Her, yes.
Ms. Lafreniere?
Yes.
Ms. Ritterbush?
Ritterbush, yes.
Headstone, yes, so that carries. Mr. Kamal, are you good?
Thank you to the board for the consideration. I'm good.
Great, thank you very much. So if we could liven up Mr. Voner again. So we are going back to our 7 o'clock public hearing on the utility pole petitions on East Street and Wood Street. So we're going to first hear our information on the East Street petition. Mr. Voner, I see that you are here. You are not muted, but we do not have video of you, which that's up to you. So why don't you go ahead and take us through our this public hearing of the information that you have for us.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. So I believe you said we're starting with East Street.
Yep.
So the main purpose of East Street is it's only 10 feet off the wires, that is, or only 10 feet off the ground over their driveway. So we want to help correct the clearance issues for safety purposes. So we need to add a pole between the two existing ones as a midspan pole to hold the line up higher to a more acceptable level.
Okay, that's a single pole?
That is a single pole between the two existing ones, yes, within the road right of way.
Okay. Mr. Kamalo, has there been any feedback from neighbors on this?
We have not received any adverse feedback. And I think with your permission, Mr. Chair, we can also check with Elaine Lazarus.
Yes, please.
We have not in writing, but there could be some here this evening.
Okay, thank you.
I thought there was a letter from a resident in favor. No?
The resident who requested the pole, whose driveway is affected.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, board members, do you have any questions? I'm sorry, Mr. Nasrullah?
None here, none here.
Mr. Herr?
No.
Ms. Lafreniere?
No.
Ms. Ritterbusch?
No.
Okay, and I have none as well. And now we will hear the Wood Street petition, please. I'm sorry, before we do that, I'd like to go to the public. Is there anyone from the public here that have any questions or comments? You can signify by hitting your raise hand button on your computer. Seeing none. All right. So let's, Mr. Varner, let's go to the Wood Street petition, please.
Okay. In very similar fashion to the other one, this one is over Whisper Way and across the street. Actually, the whole span of poles, the existing poles, is from the northwest side of Whisper Way to across the street from Patriots Road. And in previous days, the poles were fine, but then you throw in Whisper Way and you need to get those lines up higher off the ground. So we instituted two more midspan poles that would hold those lines up higher and better support the new development at Whisper Way and get the lines higher off the ground for safety purposes.
And that's across the street from Whisper Way along Wood Street?
It's no, it's on the same side of the street.
It's on the same side. Okay. All right, board member, is that the conclusion, Mr. Voner?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Board members, any questions? Mr. Nasrullah?
Yes. So I saw in some of the comments with the town that there is a damaged pole right in that same area. Is the plan to remove the damaged pole?
I'm not aware of a damaged pole. Do you know what the number of the pole is?
I am just actually looking at a comment from the town engineer. It doesn't state which one. Oh, sorry, that one's actually on East Street.
Oh, yes. The one on East Street that's actually part of what we were going to do too. That pole was replaced on East Street. I'm sorry, we're going back. We're off the subject right now.
Okay.
But just to answer your question, The damaged pole and the new pole are right next to each other, so we're going to also be removing the old damaged pole as part of that job.
Okay, good. Other question is there going to be underground utilities in Whisper Way?
I believe there is. This isn't part of that, but I think I remember seeing a drawing that did say that there was.
Okay, so, but we still need all the extra, we need the extra pole and extra wiring. Basically, that will then go underground to Whisper Way. Is that my understanding? Is my understanding correct?
Eventually, yes. That would probably be that the Whisper Way folks would have to institute.
Thank you. I'm all set.
Mr. Herr,
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Lafreniere,
No questions.
Ms. Ritterbush.
I'm all set.
I'm set on Wood Street. I'm going to jump back to the East Street, if you would, Mr. Voner. The replacing of that pole, is that a complete replacement, or are you going to put a double pole there, sister it?
It's been completely replaced. I believe it's even been strung up. I'm not actually familiar with it. I've been out to the site and I saw it. And it looks like the old pole is just still there hanging around, and they want to get it out of there.
Okay. So I guess I would be, oh, actually, you know what? Before we deliberate, and are there any members of the public that have questions or comment for this Wood Street section of the public hearing? Hit your raise hand button and we could liven up your microphone. I am not seeing any. So board members, is there any additional information from the petitioner that's needed? Are there any additional comments or questions for the petitioner? These are final questions or comments. Mr. Nasrullah?
None for me.
Herr?
All set.
Lafreniere?
All set.
Ms. Ritterbush?
I'm all set.
So the only comment I'm going to have is I'm going to make this contingent. I'm going to hopefully make this contingent on Verizon and or Eversource on the implementation of these poles, that no existing poles like that replacement pole on East Street and any of the others it should be contingent that we're not creating any more double poles. So if that damaged pole on East Street, that has to be completely fixed prior to us allowing this to go forward. And Mr. Voner, I don't know if you've been in front of us before, but we have a huge problem with Verizon passing the buck to Eversource and Eversource passing the buck to Verizon when it comes to double poles. We have like 50 or so in town at some very prominent areas, and they don't get fixed. And when we bring it up to whoever we bring it up to, they just kind of snub their nose to us and say it's not our responsibility. Verizon will say it's Eversource. Eversource says it's Verizon. Nothing gets done. So it's been me personally, it's been a massive source of frustration dealing with the two companies. So we won't get into that. We'll just strictly stick to this public hearing. And I will hope that the board would, or I would see if the board would support me by putting the language in saying that we would, if we do support this, it will be contingent on creating no double poles.
Mr. Chair, should we close the public meeting?
Sure. Yeah. All right. So
can I just make sure I understand you correctly?
Sure.
When I pass along the information. So you are okay with that damaged pole being removed? You don't want it to remain as part of a second pole. Is that correct?
That's right. I want it to be replaced as a standalone replaced pole, single.
Understood. Okay. Thank you.
No sistering.
Mr. Chair, close the public hearing.
Yep. Okay. Is it seconded?
Second.
Okay. Let's see. So, Mr. Nasrullah, how do you vote?
Nasrullah, yes.
Mr. Herr,
Yes.
Ms. Lafreniere,
Freni, yes.
Ms. Ritterbush,
Ritterbush, yes.
Headstone, yes. So I will request a motion to close the public hearing on the petition from Eversource relative to the new pole on Wood Street.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
Okay, Mr. Nasrullah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Herr,
Yes.
Grenier,
Freni, yes.
Ms. Ritterbush,
Ritterbush, yes.
Headstone, yes. So now we'll deliberate. So board, that was my 2 cents is the double pole issue that we have been dealing with, that I have been dealing with for 5 years now. Mr. Herr has been dealing with it a little bit longer than that, and some of the other board members less than that. But it's a chronic problem in town that I don't want to add to the tally by allowing this to go through and allowing a second another double pole.
I completely agree. I think it's, while we have a chance to have one removed as part of an approval, I think that makes complete sense, especially if it's damaged. I'm noticing after the big storm, we had a lot of damage and a lot of the poles were replaced with double poles or braced poles. And I think you're absolutely right in your instinct about no cistern or doubling.
Great. Thank you. So I would request, I'm sorry, Mr. Hurd, anything?
I'm fine, I agree.
Ms. Lafreniere?
Well, I absolutely agree after that first one on Cedar Street.
Yep. And Ms. Ritterbush?
Yes, I agree. It's a very reasonable thing to request.
Okay. So I will request a motion to approve the requested utility pole on East Street contingent on it not creating a double pole and the damaged pole to be replaced with a new one and the damaged pole to be removed.
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? Mr. Kamala, was that motion in line, in order?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So how do you vote? Mr. Nasrullah?
Really, yes.
Mr. Herr?
Yes.
Ms. Lafreniere?
Freni, yes.
Ms. Ritterbush?
Ritterbush, yes.
Headstone, yes. I will request a motion to approve the requested utility poles on Wood Street with the same contingencies as the ones on East Street, that no double poles be created.
So moved, but I'd also like to add that any damaged poles, if there are damaged poles, be removed.
I second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Nasrullah?
Nasrullah, yes.
Mr. Herr?
Yes.
Ms. Lafreniere?
Freni, yes.
Ms. Ritterbush?
Ritterbush, yes.
Headstone, yes. So, Mr. Vollmer, you've got our directives. We have approved you pending, just making sure that you do the right thing with that damaged pole, and if there are any other damaged poles, that they're replaced and not sistered.
I understand, and I have my marching orders. I'll make sure I pass that information along as you've requested it.
Excellent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, liaison reports and board invites. Board members, do you have any liaison reports? Mr. Nasrullah?
None.
Mr. Herr?
Nothing.
Ms. Lafreniere?
No,
Ms. Ritterbush?
I always do, but I have a few events to mention since this is our last meeting before December. Veterans Day is tomorrow. Is one of us going to be able to go to that event on the Common? It seems like at least one of us should go. I know they're trying to be social distanced.
no, I go every year anyway, but
Okay.
I'm going to try to get there, but my work schedule does not always allow me to leave during the days, but I'm going to try to get there.
Okay. Good to know. I wanted to mention the Hopkinton Lights Up as One begins on Friday, coincide with Diwali, and it's sponsored by the South Asian Circle of Hopkinton, the High School Diversity Club, and the Freedom Team. So even if you don't celebrate Diwali, you can still welcome to put up some string lights at your house or otherwise. It's just to light up the night. It gets dark so early. Scouting for Food Saturday. Put your food out by 10 a.m. or you can also make a donation to Project Just Because. Let's see. And then next week is the LGBTQ+ Basics and Beyond online webinar. on, let's see, on the 17th at 7 p.m. by the Freedom Team. And it's just a Zoom event, but if you'd like to learn more about that, you can. And the planning board is holding a actual planning meeting. They're not going to learn about any new projects on November 30th. It'll be joint with the Zoning Advisory Committee and the Growth Study Committee on November 30th at 7, if anyone is interested in watching or attending.
And I have none.
I have comments through the chair. I was reading in the paper where Shane Cook, one of our firefighters, just graduated from the fire academy. I'm sure we'll be hearing about that in the future. I want to congratulate Shane. And I was wondering, how is Mr. Camello, through the chair, how is our pledge coming? I thought we were supposed to do something at this meeting on it, but I didn't see anything. So I was wondering, how is that, the race pledge coming?
So I guess we're between you and Amy, we're into our future board agenda items.
I guess, okay.
But Mr. Kamalo, feel free to answer that.
Yeah, through the chair, we're still working through both the pledge as well as the rules of procedure with town council. They were not ready in time for this meeting, and we should be ready for the next meeting.
Great.
Okay. Just a couple other comments. One is Veterans Day tomorrow. I want to congratulate all the veterans. I want to wish everybody a happy and safe family time at Thanksgiving. And thank you all.
Thank you. And Mr. Nasrullah, any future?
No future agenda items, but I would like to say a word before we close out. We can go forward with any other one who has agenda items first.
Oh, go ahead. You get the floor.
I just want to congratulate the town of Hopkinton on running an election amidst a pandemic. I'm so proud of how the town came together, of how people socially distanced and were able to conduct an election safely. And I'm just proud of how our town handled it and how our residents, cooperated. It's incredible.
Great, thank you.
I agree. I think we need to give special applause or a special congrats to Lynn and Connor in the town clerk's office, because they did yeoman service. It was unbelievable. So deserve a lot of credit.
Okay. Mr. Herr.
For future agenda items, I would like to formally request that we get into this 49590 noise mitigation issue and see what the town can do, or see if this board and the town would consider what we can do to help make sure that noise mitigation stays in the scope of work.
Yep, good.
I had a thought on that. Perhaps we should forward that letter or the information to our state rep and state senator and let them know that this is a subject that we're going to be tackling.
Sure.
Yes, no?
Sounds good to me.
Through the chair, yes, we are in contact with the Senator Spilker and Representative Dykema's offices on this issue. And in fact, the town's prior comments have identified noise as a concern for the neighbors.
And I think any one of those meetings that I've been to, I think Carolyn has been at those meetings as well.
Yeah. And if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
The library is creating a new strategic plan and is looking for a few key community members to participate in a focus group discussion.
Someone like a town manager?
Yeah, through the director, yes. The meeting would be held virtually sometime before Thanksgiving and will be about 90 minutes. Heather Beckman has asked me to ask if any board members would be interested in participating in that meeting. And if you are, please reach out to me by email and I will forward your name to Heather Beckman.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Ms. Ritterbusch, anything from you?
Yep, I just had one item, the growth study committee recently submitted a budget item for potential consideration related to expanded service due to the COVID-19 to consider hiring an economic development officer on a contract basis for 1 year, since we're gonna mainly just that office space needs are changing in town, and that this might be valuable at least to discuss. So I hope we could discuss it at a future meeting.
And so future board agenda items, I have nothing on that. I would like to jump on the veterans thing and say happy 245th birthday to the United States Marine Corps. November 10th is always a very special day in my eyes. So happy birthday, Marines. So that being said, I'll just request the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Sure. I move to adjourn the meeting.
Okay. No further discussion, I hope. Hearing none. Mr. Nasrullah, how would you like to vote?
I'd like to vote yes.
Okay. Mr. Hurt?
Yes.
Ms. Lafreniere?
Yes.
Ms. Ritterbush?
Yes.
Ted Stone, yes. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.